Kendall's secondary hearts nearly stopped when the proximity alarm chirred softly in the observation deck. Her luminescent eyes widened as she stared at the radar screen, her translucent fingers hovering over the controls without touching them, as if the display might shatter under her trembling hand. There, cutting through the void of Sector 7 Gamma like a blade through silk, was an unmistakable signature. A human ship, by the ancestors, she whispered, her voice barely carrying in the sterile air of the celestial observer station. The words came out in her native Zalithian tongue, melodic and haunting. For a moment, she couldn't move, couldn't think. We couldn't do anything but stare at the impossible reading before her. Humans were supposed to be extinct, gone. A cautionary tale told two young ones across 1,000 worlds about what happened when a species ventured too far, too fast, with too much audacity. The great silence had swallowed them 3 generations ago, or so every scholar, every historian, every government official claimed. But legends had persisted in the darker corners of space stations and mining colonies. Whispers of ghost ships bearing Earth's ancient markings, stories of mysterious interventions during pirate attacks, of impossible rescues where no one should have been. Most dismissed these as spacers' superstitions, the kind of folklore that grew wherever isolation and fear took root. Kendall had always been skeptical. She was a scientist, after all, trained in astrophysics and xenobiology at the prestigious towers of Meridian. She dealt in data, in observable phenomena, in peer-reviewed certainty. Until now. Computer, verify identification, she commanded, her voice steadier than she felt. Verification in progress. The AI responded in its neutral tone. Hull composition, iron-nickel alloy with titanium reinforcement. Energy signature, fusion-based propulsion system. Design architecture, matches archived human engineering patterns with 94.7% probability. Conclusion, vessel of human origin. The deck seemed to tilt beneath Kendall's feet. She reached for her communication panel, then hesitated. Who would she call? Station Commander Velther, who would probably accuse her of equipment malfunction or exhaustion-induced hallucination. The Galactic Council, who had spent decades insisting humanity's disappearance was absolute and final. Her hand moved to a different control instead. She opened a narrowband hailing frequency, the kind that wouldn't trigger station-wide alerts. Unidentified vessel. This is Research Officer Kendall Zhiara of the Celestial Observer Station. Please identify yourself. Silence stretched across the void. The human ship maintained its trajectory, neither accelerating nor changing course. It simply existed, as impossible and undeniable as a star-going supernova in a vacuum. Then her console crackled to life. Observer Station. This is the UHSN Perseverance. The voice was unmistakably direct, carrying an accent she'd only heard in archived historical recordings, requesting permission to dock for equipment repairs. We mean no harm. Kendall's breath caught. The voice belonged to a human, a living, breathing human. The implications crashed over her like solar winds. Stand by, Perseverance, she managed to say, buying herself precious seconds to think. Before she could decide her next move, the observation deck doors hissed open. She turned to find Roman Castellanos, the station's head of security, striding in with his characteristic purposeful gait. The Terran designation human looked entirely different from other species she'd worked with shorter lifespan. No. Natural. Armor. Bilateral symmetry that seemed almost fragile compared to the Xylithian's four-limbed grace. Except Roman wasn't supposed to exist either. He'd arrived at the station 5 years ago with impeccable credentials and a background that checked out perfectly. Too perfectly, Kendall now realized with dawning horror and wonder. You're one of them, she breathed, the pieces clicking into place. You've been here the whole time. Roman's expression remained carefully neutral, but something flickered in his dark eyes. Calculation, perhaps, or resignation. I was wondering when someone would finally notice, he said quietly. Your senses are more sensitive than most. How? The question emerged as barely more than a whisper. Everyone said humans were gone. The great silence. We never left, Roman interrupted, moving to stand beside her at the console. We just learned to be very, very quiet. After the Confederation tried to relocate Earth's population for our planet's resources, we decided survival meant disappearing. Some of us stayed hidden among other species, others, he gestured at the radar screen. Others kept moving, kept watching, kept ready. Kendall's mind raced through implications. The ghost ship stories, the mysterious interventions. That was all us. Yeah. Roman leaned against the console, his posture suggesting exhaustion spanning decades. We couldn't save everyone, but we did what we could, quietly, always quietly. Why reveal yourselves now? Roman's jaw tightened. Because the Carthex Dominion is mobilizing for something big. We've intercepted communications suggesting they're planning systematic subjugation of the outer colonies. The same thing that happened to us. We can't stay silent anymore. The weight of that statement settled over Kendall like a gravitational field. She looked from Roman to the radar screen, where the Perseverance hung in space, like a promise or perhaps a warning. The Council needs to know, she said finally. They will. Roman met her gaze directly. But first, I need to know if we can trust you. Humanity's survival has depended on secrecy for generations. What happens next depends on whether you believe we deserve a second chance. Kendall stared at the human before her, at the ship on her screen, at the impossible reality that had just shattered 3 generations of accepted history. She thought of all the species suffering under oppression, of all the whispered legends that might have been truths ignored. She made her choice, perseverance. "You are cleared to dock at Bay 7, she said into the com. Then, turning to Roman, "Let's make sure this time, humanity doesn't have to hide." For the first time since she'd known him, Roman smiled genuinely, without reservation. "Welcome to the next chapter, Kendall. It's going to be one hell of a story."